Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are taking a sledgehammer to one of the most toxic myths in the modern professional world, the whole hustle culture mindset. You know the mantra, right? I'll sleep when I'm dead, or grind now, rest later. But what if that exact mindset is the very thing keeping you from building real wealth? We're going on a bit of a myth-busting journey through the data today to prove that sacrificing your sleep isn't building your wealth. Actually, scratch that, it's actively destroying it. Okay, let's just dive right into this. $411 billion. I mean, wow. According to data from the Rand Corporation, that staggering number is exactly what sleep deprivation costs the US economy every single year. It is literally an unfathomable amount of money just wiped out, simply because we aren't spending enough time with our eyes closed. So if the broader economy is bleeding billions, we've got to look at your own bank account, right? This brings us to the ultimate question we're answering today. Is your lack of sleep making you poorer? Well, let's follow the data and find out. Part 1. The high cost of exhaustion. When you break down that RAND study data across the globe, it's pretty wild. Look at the United States and Japan. They're taking the absolute hardest hits here. The US loses over 2% of its entire GDP and drops about 1.2 million working days annually just to fatigue. And this productivity loss, it comes from absenteeism, where people just don't show up. But more insidiously, it comes from presenteeism. That's when you're physically sitting at your desk, but your brain is essentially running on dial-up internet, and you're just staring blankly at a spreadsheet. Part 2, earning more by working less. Let's unpack this data from the IZ Institute of Labor Economics, because it reveals a completely mind-blowing paradox. When people sleep just 1 extra hour per week, their weekly earnings actually increase by 3.4%. But notice that third point. Their actual hours worked decreased by almost 1%. You heard that right. You are literally earning more money while working slightly less. How is that even possible? Well, it's because that extra rest completely elevates your task efficiency and drastically improves your mental health scores. You just become a sharper, faster, and way more effective professional. The researchers behind this study found that these earning boosts are driven heavily by massive productivity improvements and mental health gains. In fact, this was especially profound for women and mothers in the workforce. Their earnings jumped up by an incredible 4.6% with increased sleep. Why? Because women often carry a disproportionate mental load, or a second shift at home. So for them, the cognitive relief of extra sleep yields even more dramatic baseline productivity returns. The ROI on this biological investment is just undeniable. Part 3. Your brain on sleep deprivation. Okay, so the absolutely crucial point here is your prefrontal cortex. Think of the prefrontal cortex as the CEO of your brain. When you're running on fumes, that CEO is essentially showing up to work drunk. You literally lose your biological ability to accurately weigh risks and rewards, consider different perspectives, and regulate your emotions. And that leads directly to impulsive, short-sighted money decisions that you are absolutely going to regret later. And the physical toll? It goes way beyond just having a foggy brain. Poor sleep triggers a massive spike in cortisol, your stress hormone. It decreases your insulin sensitivity, which completely opens the door to weight gain and diabetes. Financially speaking, this creates a massive burden through long-term medical costs and higher insurance premiums. But honestly, perhaps the most dangerous financial side effect is a totally reduced capacity for delayed gratification. Building wealth requires patience, right? It's like holding an index fund for years without touching it. But a tired brain, it demands the immediate dopamine hit of impulsive spending. Part 4. The trading mechanics. We can clearly contrast how retail investors behave based on their sleep states. The tired investor's perception of market risk is completely warped. They distort probability, they suffer from present bias, and they just act impulsively. Meanwhile, the rested investor remains patient and totally future-focused. They rely on what's called a curved utility function, which basically means they rationally weigh long-term value against short-term panic, allowing them to ride out market volatility smoothly without freaking out. And if you think this is all just theoretical, check out this genuinely shocking finding from the LMU College of Business Administration. They studied retail stock traders and found that simply living on the side of a time zone border that forces later sunsets, meaning those people naturally get slightly less sleep, leads to an annualized drop in their trading returns, 5%, a negative 5% return, just because they live on the wrong side of an invisible time zone line that disrupts their circadian rhythm. Crazy, right? Part 5. The Rested Leadership Edge. Research actually shows that quality sleep directly generates what psychologists call high activation positive moods. We're talking about feelings of deep enthusiasm, alertness, and true inspiration. For an entrepreneur or a business leader, these moods aren't just, nice to have. They are the fundamental drivers of pure innovative behavior. You simply cannot ideate or lead effectively when you're running on empty. But here's where so many ambitious professionals get it completely wrong. Stopping work is not the same as internal recovery. White-knuckling your phone on the couch while doom scrolling does not give your brain a break. Stressing about tomorrow's big presentation keeps your brain stuck in a high-arousal, stressed state. True recovery requires a genuine disconnect so your central nervous system can actually repair itself. Part 6. The Sleep Wealth Domino Effect. Bringing this all together, we can map out exactly how resting properly creates an unstoppable chain reaction. And it starts tonight, with deep internal recovery and repairing that prefrontal cortex. That translates directly to tomorrow, where you've got sharper decision-making and higher task productivity. Now zoom out to next year. That consistent daily performance means you command higher wages, you earn promotions, and you win those tough negotiations. And finally, over decades, that surplus disposable income, managed by a rational, well-rested brain, generates massive compounding investment returns. So how do we actually operationalize this? Well, here are 4 direct, actionable interventions that top-performing CEOs swear by. Number 1, guard your wind-down time with the exact same rigor you apply to a board meeting. Make it sacred. 2, no caffeine afternoon. Go walk to the water cooler instead. 3, culturally rebrand sleep as a critical business asset to your team. You have to lead by example here. And 4, practice ruthless tech hygiene. Your next $1 million idea is for sure not going to come from an Instagram reel at 1 a.m. Leave the phone outside the bedroom. I really want to emphasize this powerful takeaway from Mike Ott over at the Forbes Business Council. Smart CEOs sleep. Because when you rest well, you lead better. Prioritizing your rest isn't a sign of weakness or a lack of ambition. In today's highly complex business landscape, it is literally the ultimate competitive advantage. Which leaves us with one final, absolutely vital question for you to chew on as we wrap up this explainer. What will you choose to do tonight to protect your wealth? It is time to stop letting hustle culture destroy your bank account and start treating your sleep like the high-yield financial asset it truly is. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive today, and I highly, highly encourage you to start investing in your rest tonight. See you next time.